Greetings, legends. Today, I am going to talk about my journey of finding my flow. And I don't just mean flow state, I mean literally and figuratively my menstrual cycle and healing my own relationship with the wounded feminine. I recently shared a reel on Instagram and well, I've shared a lot of shit on Instagram recently. Hey, stuff going viral again. Let's milk it. My point is, I've shared some things over the years, and what I realized, particularly this video of me dancing, looking pretty hot, minimal clothing, and I thought, you know what? There's so many people that have no idea the journey that I've gone through to get to where I am today, and the fact that I used to be the chubby, insecure, unpopular, although it was very funny, still sometimes debatable, can be. I was super comfortable living in the shadows. I did not want to be seen. I did not want to ever be considered sexy because I thought, God forbid, I'd lose all respect. In the corporate space, would never be caught wearing a pencil skirt. It was jeans, super androgynous. And over the years, I had to really, well, dismantle all of that which I thought I was to come home to who I really am. And in sharing some of these videos, what I realized is so many of you have no idea that girl that I used to be. And while I make it look easy, like, oh wow, she just gets on camera and talks and she's just dancing and she's at these festivals and she's on stage, like that wasn't always the case. And I shared this at a women's festival once before, and I had so many women come up to me in shock, in disbelief that I could have ever been anything but wildly feminine. I was the Lego enthusiast. I was the nerd. Dorcas Malorcas, that was me. I was happy living in the shadow of my very popular older sister. And for me, I was terrified of the feminine because the feminine, 1 plus 1 wasn't always equal to 2. Mom and sister, love you, mom and sister, but I looked at their wildly sensitive, intuitive creature of the moon sort of vibes as a risk to my success and dangerous. And goodness gracious, I can't always tell how they're gonna be and act and feel and do. So I actually perceived that feminine quality, that essence, as not safe. So what did I do? I silenced my emotions. I convinced myself I was a rock that everyone could depend on. Huh, you want to emotionally just dump on me? Sure, I can hold it. Huh, no, turns out I couldn't and I shouldn't have. And it's no wonder I had an absolute meltdown, breakdown in my late 20s, realizing why I was numbing myself with a bottle of wine a night, smoking everything, eating to the point of pain, because I was trying to silence and swallow the emotions that I had essentially been running away from my whole life. Hello, Cancer moon, Venus, Mars, right? The archetype of Cancer as an astrological sign. The crab, really, really tough shell with this really soft, squishy interior. And I had to fall apart and break into a million pieces to realize who I really am. And that shell had to come off. And it's no wonder growing up having such painful periods. I had irregular periods. I was put on the birth control pill when I was 13 before I was even sexually active because that's what the doctors do. They go, oh, you have irregular periods? Here, take this pill. Bye. Not knowing how much that fucked me up. And I won't even go into that. If you're on the pill, I'm not going to go into that rabbit hole. However, I had painful periods. I had cystic acne. I was a mess. And I didn't realize that, well, it took years to unpack this as to why I actually had such gnarly hormonal dysfunction was I actually didn't believe it was safe to be a woman. As I mentioned a moment ago, I looked at these wild, sensitive, feminine qualities as dangerous and not safe. So there was a part of me that subconsciously didn't want to be a woman. And as soon as I got my bleed when I was 12, I cried. I was so upset because I believed, and as they tell you, when you get your period, your boobs only grow for 2 more years, and you don't get any taller. And I had itty bitty titties, and now, which I'm learning to love. And I was also not very tall, and I just looked at my hormones and my cycle as this like terrible death sentence. And over the years, coming to realize just how much misinformation or lack of information is really shared with women and their cycles, and this rite of passage of becoming a bleeding woman, of becoming a fertile woman who can create life. We have a fucking portal, a gateway between our legs to bring life. And yet this scared me. The first time I was given a tampon by my aunt and a mirror, and she goes, now go into the bathroom and put this in. I almost vomited when I went down to look at this seemingly black hole between my legs. I got queasy. Why? Because it was scary. It was like, oh my God, what is this thing? Where is this going? And I totally rejected my femininity. And I had to, well, it wasn't until my late 20s that I actually had to do something about it, right? Because I wanted to pursue the safe, very androgynous path of engineering. I don't need a man. I don't need to depend on anyone. I can take care of myself, me against the big bad world. I was totally convincing myself that I didn't need anyone or anything, or ever need support from anyone. And so, of course, I climbed the corporate ladder. I had my electrical engineering degree, making all this money in San Francisco. I was at Sony, I was at Fitbit. And of course, I was numbing myself with drugs and alcohol every night with this existential dread of like, well, what the fuck? I've spent my whole life pursuing this engineering degree. What felt like my whole life. Started with the Legos, really. I'm going to put shit together. And then I realized that I was not happy at all in my engineering degree. And this whole like showing up every day for a job that you don't really care about. And look, corporate's not evil. And I'm not saying everyone needs to go quit their corporate job and buy a one-way ticket to Panama like I did. BT dubs. If you missed that part of the story, which I'll go into briefly, but I've shared that part of my story about 872 times. So there are other podcast interviews on my YouTube channel where you can hear more about that soul quest around the world. But I'll touch on it as well. Mind you, I have no real structure here, strategy. I'm operating in the divine feminine, and we don't know what's gonna happen. All I know is that I got a client in less than an hour, so I'll have to, eventually put a stop on this. So, as I was saying, I had to fall apart to really come back together or come together as my authentic self, and not even really knowing what that was, because I thought I was tough as nails. I thought I was a rock. And I did not think that I was an emotional creature. That just wasn't something I thought. I mean, even in like dance classes as a little girl and tap dance, I was so in my head. You see these videos of me on Instagram, like dancing, like I know what's going on. That was not Allie growing up. Allie was in her head tap dancing. It was like shuffle, ball chain. It was all robotic. And oh my God, I was operating in my head probably until about only in the last 5 years have I really learned to inhabit and come into my body. And in that process, finding my voice, realizing that I was pretty much living in fight or flight most of my life. No wonder my body didn't think it was safe to bleed, right? When I left corporate in San Francisco, what was I, 29? Being dramatic, and pretty much hungover perpetually, I was willing to be wild and take my entire life savings, quit my corporate job, buy a one-way ticket to Panama, and go on this soul quest to figure out what the hell is out there outside of corporate, because I was not happy. And as I said, I was dealing with adult cystic acne. My periods were all over the place, but I knew I knew if I was going to go travel the world, I needed to get off all the pills and things because I couldn't. Well, one, I didn't want to be on pills forever, and two, I couldn't have a reliable pharmacy with the same pills everywhere. And I just thought, let's just get off of all of it. I picked a really bad time to do that because I had also signed up for a yoga teacher training. Anyone who knows what a yoga teacher training is like, it's like basically cracking yourself wide open, not only emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, but physically. You've got hip openers that you're holding for the first time ever for 5 to 6 minutes, and tears that you never knew you had stored in your body begin to unfurl and unfold. So I got off the pill. I go into a yoga teacher training. I'm bawling like 24/7. Mind you, I just got my heart broken by a man I thought I was gonna marry. It's a whole saga. Yeah, there's a lot there. But going back to the hormonal kind of piece of realizing that this soul, this body, she's sensitive, she's soft, and she's highly emotional. And it didn't, I mean, of course, having it didn't hurt that I was throwing myself into yoga teacher training. And at the time, convinced that as I pursue this quest around the world, with my initial plan was to just work on a boat in Panama teaching yoga, playing music, cooking, cleaning, which is hilarious. For anyone who knows me knows that I don't really cook, and cleaning, well, we get by. But I went on this quest, and I was riddled with anxiety. I was riddled with fear. And of course, I took my entire life savings from my corporate existence in San Francisco, and I was operating out of a spreadsheet for it was about a year and a half when I left San Francisco in 2018 to Panama and proceeded this quest around 16 countries and 5 continents. And I'll tell you, I only taught yoga in 2 of those countries because I realized I'm not ready to heal or teach anybody. I need to figure out how to be, because I was waking up panic attacks, anxiety, not only to realize about a year later when I got my hormones checked, that my estrogen had plummeted to that of a woman in menopause. I stopped bleeding entirely while I was traveling, and my estrogen was so low. And of course, you need estrogen to produce serotonin and dopamine. And if your estrogen's too low, yeah, you're gonna feel like fucking shit. So I was crying all the time. I was putting on tons of weight. And of course, I was then living with a spreadsheet that basically said, at first you've got, 18 months to live. And then it was like, now you got 10 months to live. Now you've got 5 months to live. Now you're going to die. And, I'll tell you, nothing like good old scarcity mindset when you have a ticking time bomb of a spreadsheet to look at as the days go by, with no real clear indication of how you're going to make money after you leave corporate. This is why I had to quit twice. Okay, people? First time I quit was to understand what the hell excites me outside in this world. Who am I outside of corporate? Electrical engineering program manager. What even turns me on? What excites me? What lights me up? And so, of course, it started right at Fitbit, actually teaching meditation at the office, and then going into the yoga teacher training and starting to hold this space for people. Really, out of my own salvation, was I needed to learn how to meditate to quiet the monkey mind. And then as I proceeded going into the teacher training and going on these travels and going around, yoga became my anchor. And for anyone who's never done yoga, or never done a yoga teacher training, whether or not you have any intentions of teaching, I highly encourage you learn what the yogis taught, because for me it was like Hogwarts for mere mortals, where you begin to learn your magical nature and the fact that you can shift your state, you can shift your vibration with your breath, with your body, with movement, and with mantra, with music, with sound. And so that began this whole, all right, I used to have my Instagram as Melodious Yogi. I'm gonna go travel the world playing mantras and kirtans at yoga studios. And I realized well, I had no idea what I really wanted then because my hormones were all over the place. I didn't want to sing. Just wanted to survive. And I felt like every day it just felt like such a chore to get out of bed. I remember this time at that point I was in Bali in 2019 and I would wake up so sad, so miserable. I remember being on my knees, like almost a child's pose, but sobbing into the concrete of this villa I was living in because on the outside I was traveling the world teaching yoga or playing music at like different yoga studios in Bali, and but all the while I was debilitated with anxiety. My skin was a mess. I put on so much weight, and I joke, I call it my eat, pray, cry, eat, repeat journey, when really it was pretty much that. There was a lot of eating and a lot of praying and a whole lot of crying. And at the same time, I am so grateful for my dark decade of the soul and my existential crises and the ability to touch so intimately with the depths of my own despair, because I wouldn't be here running this business, sharing what I'm sharing, helping other men and women connect and heal their feminine essence, to find their voice, to downregulate their nervous system. Like, I wouldn't be able to do that if I hadn't had to do it for my own survival. And I believe we can only take people to the depths in which we've taken ourselves. So this journey around the world, right, and this search for flow, where the hell is my bleed? And also, what is flow for me? What brings me joy? What excites me? And I believe we are spending most of our life figuring out what we don't want. However, this is also getting us closer to what we do want. So all the things you try and you're like, I could teach yoga and tell them to do all these asanas, the postures, and so much respect for yoga teachers out there. But for me, I was like, I don't know if that's it. Like I said, I had to stop teaching for a bit because I'm like, I need a retreat. I need to go to Peru. I'm going to do ayahuasca because maybe some shaman or guru can fix me, can heal my childhood traumas and all of that. And it wasn't until, of course, I got into breath work 16 countries later and realized that I actually don't need to outsource my healing to any guru or shaman or healer, and that we have the capacity to heal ourselves with our breath. Now, I'm not creating this video to sell you anything. I'm not creating this video to get you to buy anything. I firmly believe these days the most crucial thing I can do for my business is to be authentic and to share my story. However, if you would like to learn more about my offerings, if you want a free breathwork journey, I highly recommend you subscribe to my VIP newsletter. Links below and all the other ways that we can connect as well. But I really wanted to get on here because there's been quite a few comments and feedback with regards to me sharing my experience with my hormonal journey. And I believe so many of us fear the feminine. And I'm not just talking about women, I'm talking about collectively the fear of the feminine, that which cannot be quantified, that which cannot be contained, that which you cannot always count on to be 1 + 1 = 2. It's like, I don't fucking know. I'm a woman. And we all have that quality, that flow, that intuition, that sensitivity. It is like there's the masculine, the cell membrane, and the feminine is the energy in the cell. And we all have that. And we can't have life without a cell membrane to hold it and energy for it to be alive. And what I've learned over the years of trying to understand, first and foremost, how does one heal a hormonal cycle? And not realizing how awful hormonal birth control, I can't even talk. Birth control pill is for your hormones. I didn't realize that you weren't actually bleeding when you thought you were bleeding. It was a fake bleed to not freak people out. And so I started with this book called The Fifth Vital Sign, which is an incredible book. I highly recommend it. It's by, Elisa Vitti. It's on my bookshelf here. The Fifth Vital Sign, because your menstrual cycle is considered now the fifth vital sign to your health. And if your hormonal cycle, if you don't have it, if it's painful, if it's irregular, all of that, it is a vital sign that something is not right. So I went on this journey to understand my cycles, to understand how the hormones change and fluctuate throughout the month, how I can be such a different fucking creature from week 1 to week 3, and how before a bleed I can feel like everything's falling apart, I'm gonna die. And then when I'm ovulating, it's like, fuck yeah, I'm juiced up, ready to go, let's make a baby. No, I'm not ready to do that yet. So I went on this quest to understand, how does it work to be a woman? How does one function in this radical, not only are we spiritual beings having human experiences, but as a spiritual being having a woman experience, it was like, oh shit, all right, we're going to work with this. We're going to learn it. We're going to understand how we can work with the lunar cycles of the moon, how the new moon, right? The dark moon, the shedding, the planting of the seeds. For me, it corresponds to my bleed, the full moon, fertility, ovulation, harvesting, reaping the fruit of our seeds planted at the new moon. So looking at all of these elements, from working with the lunar cycles to a really important one, is what we put in our bodies and what we put on our skin, what we take in. I tell you, it took me like 30 years to realize that what I put in my body actually impacts my vibration. I was doing this yoga teacher training, I'm traveling the world, drinking wine every night, eating crap, sugar, processed food, smoking cigarettes, vaping. Yeah, but yet I was doing my yoga, but I'd like wake up and have a cigarette, and it was just like, huh. So I started to learn, okay, what correlates to, if our thoughts are the electric field, I'm pulling on some Dr. Joe Dispenza stuff here, so stick with me. If the thoughts are the electric field and our emotions are the magnetic field, what we think and how we feel creates our reality. And I started to realize that my thoughts were pretty shit, predominantly all of the time. And as soon as I started to tweak things in my life, clean up the diet, started with a juice cleanse, to be honest. And now I don't recommend a juice cleanse for everybody. You need to be mindful, and certainly not a high fructose juice cleanse. But for me, all I needed was to just take a few weeks off of all the crap and clean the body. And what I didn't realize was that I'd been operating on a very low bar, serotonin, dopamine, also I think hugely leaky gut. When I took a couple weeks to just cleanse the body, cleanse the gut, I realized, oh my God, I'm actually capable of being really happy. I'm not dying. Life can actually be beautiful. What I didn't realize, there was just years and years of gunk, years and years of a little girl who started smoking pot at 11 and cigarettes at 12 and cocaine and all the things, meanwhile getting great grades and, getting away with murder with my parents because I know how to talk shop and convince them that I have it all figured out. However, it took me a long time to realize that what I put in my body actually impacts me. So first and foremost, if you're dealing with hormonal irregularity, clean up your diet. Clean up your diet. And as a result, watch how the mind stuff starts to shift. Also, clean up your products. Are you using all sorts of processed products? Are there chemicals and ingredients in the stuff you're putting on your body or drinking or whatever that you don't understand? I mean, there are certain things that I don't sacrifice, okay? Like there's conditioner that I use. I don't know what the fuck's in it, but it's good and I'm going to use it and I'm not going to stop. I don't care what anyone has to say. There are some sacrifices, but overall, full organic when it comes to food. I get my water delivered from a spring in the Southern Highlands. Yes, because what you don't filter out, your liver has to do. And when your liver is sluggish, it can't support the hormone secretion, the regulation. Also, connecting with nature. Staring at a screen all day was not very supportive. Mind you, I also didn't have any boundaries. 5 years ago, in working in corporate and all of that, it was like I would put everyone else's needs ahead of my own. I'd be running a meeting with teams all around the world. I would be so busy trying to prepare, I would forget to go pee beforehand, and I'd be like bursting during the meeting, but everything was so much more important. Everything was so much more important than my bladder, only to realize just how wrong that was and how I've had to really bury the people pleaser within me, which we all have the people pleaser. We all want to be like, we all want to fit in. We all want to, yeah, feel like we belong, and to be liked is a big part of that belonging journey. And to people please is a big part of some of our tactics to be liked. And I had to come a really long journey, and I'm bouncing all over the place, and I don't even need to explain why, because I just am. Because I'm a woman. No, I take that back. So, my point is that I went through a really, really, really long, wild journey of finding balance with my hormones. And as soon as I started breath work, I was able to clear a lot of stagnant energy in the body, not realizing how much trauma I had stored in my womb, in my physical body. Tears, I didn't let myself cry from being that little girl that wanted to be tough as nails. So breathwork was a massive catalyst to clearing and shifting a lot of stagnant energy. And of course, breathwork ignited something within me that made me want to start singing in ways that I had never connected with when I was playing guitar as a teenager, when I was drinking a bottle of wine, like yodeling with Jewel. Like that was a different part of me. And I started to connect with my voice in more of a ceremony. And of course, the yoga and the mantras and all of that really started awakening this part of me that wanted to really sing, not as performance, but as prayer. And the more I started singing, the more I felt this healing taking place in the womb. And the more I would connect with music as a healing modality and my voice as a healing modality, the more I started to notice my body in harmony. I became happy. I became more upbeat. And like, look, there's so many things I'm probably skipping and I can't even tell you what. But I'm just going to get this out. So, flash forward or back, I'm losing track. We go to our journey around the world, right? That's where I'm taking us. Around the world I go. I end up broke as a joke in Bali. I was playing music at different yoga studios for nothing, but I was just freaking frothing at the idea of playing at these yoga studios. But I needed to find a way to make a buck. And it was pre-COVID. I wasn't really finding any remote tech jobs. So I took my backpack guitar, and after the 2 months I spent in Rishikesh, India, I'd also acquired 6 kilos of Tibetan singing bowls. And fat, probably. Chapatis! But I took all that I had to this country, very lost, very confused, not really sure what I was doing here. I actually had no plans of coming here, but I had a friend from San Francisco who lured me down and said, come stay at my place in Manly. You can stay at mine rent-free while I go to Europe for a few weeks. And so she did that. And I managed to, learn how unsuccessful one can be busking when you don't have enough money to buy an amp and the seagulls are very loud. Seagulls, I don't know, I think they were seagulls. Yeah, they were very loud and it was really hard to compete with those seagulls. So off I went with a beer and a busker's license to the computer to apply for a tech job, because I was, at that point I was living on a credit card, going against all my beliefs on safe spending. YOLO. I, at that point, wouldn't have been able to afford a flight back to California. And in my mind, it was like, start a new life in my parents' place, or take whatever job I need to do, make whatever I need to do to make ends meet to stay here, because I fell in love with Manly. The community vibes, the village vibes, the beaches, it was so healing for me. And mind you, after a year and a half of not bleeding, I got my period, once while I was in Vipassana, Sri Lanka. This is where you sit and meditate for 10 hours a day, 10 days straight. Yes, I got my bleed. Why? Because I got out of my freaking monkey mind and into my body, and my body's like, oh, thank God you can bleed now. We're not dying. Because when your body thinks you are actually dying, you don't need to procreate, because it's not a necessity. You need to fucking survive. So my body shut down, stopped bleeding. And it was only until I sat and meditated and brought my awareness into every square inch of my body that I realized, oh, oh, we are safe. It's okay, be. And I had the biggest bleed. But then left Vipassana, went straight to my couch surfing host, whiskey, cigarettes, all that. Oh my God, I had the worst come down ever. Oh dear. Anyways, didn't bleed again. And flash forward, I don't know how many countries, I'm leaving Bali. And I had this sort of promise to myself, the country I bleed in is the country I stay. And coming to Australia within less than a week, and maybe I've got to thank a really beautiful, yummy burger I had at the Stain. Maybe I just needed some iron, but I bled, and I was like, all right, baby girl got her flow back. Okay, let's see if we can keep this. Let's see if we can stay with this. And having secured that job I applied for, this was Expedia in Sydney, having secured that job, being able to actually afford to put down a lease, to get a new wardrobe, to get back to some semblance of routine and schedule, and to buy a yoga membership and all the things that I kind of thought I would never be able to do once I left corporate in San Francisco. So my body was like, okay, we can buy dinner, we can pay rent, and we don't need to live in a hostel with 16 people sleeping in the same bunk den as I was doing in Costa Rica when I was traveling in lots of different places with lots of different young, wild hostel goers. Mind you, I was 29 at the time and everyone else was like 22, and I realized that I was too old for this shit. So yeah, my body was like, thank goodness we've got stability. We've got, at the time I had temporary visa, and there was a part of me that was like, yeah, all right, we've got it. But then I still realized I was still having irregular cycles. I was still having, weight was just never ending. I just kept it on. Like, no matter how little I ate, it just wouldn't go anywhere. And I felt like I always looked exhausted. I hated every picture I was in. And I definitely was adrenal fatigue to the max. And then going back to corporate, working a really high stress tech job on the other side of the world, being like, oh, for fuck's sake, I quit my job, sold everything I owned, went around the world, went through this whole journey and initiation only to be back doing the same fucking job on the other side of the world. Again, gratitude for that company, because I was able to get my permanent residency visa. I was able to stay in this country. And if I didn't have that visa, I wouldn't still be here in this place, running this business 3 years now, full time on my own. But there was a part of me that still hadn't really healed my wounded feminine. And I had to really get out of my head. I had to get out of my head and into my body. Yoga was an incredibly supportive practice for that, right? Breathwork was incredibly supportive. Starting to microdose mushrooms, that was a game changer. And also, like, just getting over the endless amount of fucks that I gave about what everyone had to say or think or feel about me. Like, it was as if it was my responsibility to manage everybody's opinions of me. And I just had to let that go. And as soon as I knew, after going around the world, okay, I know what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about holding these sacred spaces. It started with meditation, seeing that glazed over, like, just stoned look on people's faces after a meditative journey I'd take them on, and being like, oh my God, I did that. So that lit the fire. Teaching yoga started to illuminate that fire further. Playing mantras at the yoga studio. I was like, okay, there's something with yoga, devotional music, not performing at a bar with a bunch of loud people and sticky floors, but singing in a ceremonial capacity. So I was like, okay, I now know what this is. I have an idea of what lights me up, what my flow state really feels like. And for me, it's being in service, holding ceremony on a stage. And I tell you, I did not think in a million years that was my place. I was, as I said earlier, I was the tomboy. I was very comfortable in the shadows. I would never in a million years be seen taking up space and performing. And turns out I actually fucking love the stage. And I love looking good doing it too. And I realized that there's nothing wrong with that. Like these programs around, um, don't be too sexy, you're gonna lose respect. Don't be too hot. Don't be too sexy. Don't move in ways that could be suggestive. And now it's like, you know what? I'm going to do my yoga in public, maybe on the grass. Maybe people can see me. Maybe they're inspired. Maybe they're triggered. Maybe they're turned on. And you know what? It's none of my fucking business because I am done putting everyone else's needs in front of my own. And I had to meet resistance, resistance, resistance. Talk about building your own business that involves you getting on camera regularly, promoting your offerings, getting on Facebook groups. Hey, everyone, I'm doing this thing. Come pay me for my magic. Buy a ticket to my event, my concert, contribute to the pre-release of my album. All of these things, constantly putting myself on a platform to be judged by every here's my heart and soul. What do you think about it? Like it? Don't like it? Oh, fuck. And then flash forward to auditioning on The Voice Australia. And I was still working in corporate at that point. But I was like on my way out and I was looking for a way to get myself out there into the masses. I'm like, look, I've got a mission, a goal, I've got a business idea. Actually, at that point, I was actually already operating. I was doing one-on-one sessions because once I left India, I had my pranayama energy, it was Reiki certification. I had my breathwork certification, which I further studied here in Australia. I did my sound healing accreditation. The only thing that was really stopping me was the big solar plexus element of confidence. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was ready. And I was ready to chase certification after certification after certification, put off doing the work that I knew I was put on this planet to do. So I started to accept, well, it's taken a long time. And I tell you, there are days I still question my ability to do things depending on the month. I don't know. We'll see how we go. But I had to meet that resistance time and time and time again, and putting myself on a platform, big platforms, to be judged and to be criticized. And I had to let go of all fucks given and realize that I am not here to get a bunch of likes and to have your approval and to like any of that. I'm also not here to heal you. I've done a lot of work overcoming the savior complex. That little girl that used to believe it was her duty to save humanity, to resolve the family disputes, to be the soundboard for everyone to emotionally dump on. I got over that. Actually, it's not my responsibility or my duty to heal anybody. What it is my responsibility and duty is to honor my boundaries and embody my most authentic, liberated truth. Because as I walk this world, this planet, this dimension, as a liberated woman who owns her no, who holds her body, who moves, with strength and confidence, that is medicine. I don't need to sell you a program. I don't need to, if you'd like to work with me for mentorship, that is on offer. But these days, it is more about embodying the medicine than teaching it. And those that want to learn it from me, they find me. And I am so open because I've learned to move away from the do, force, hustle, chase, strategize, analyze, to the receive, tune, feel, be. And this goes back to the hormone regulation. The more I trust in my intuition, the more I tune into my feelings and sensory wisdom, the more the universe reciprocates, the more my hormones are aligned, my cycles become regular, my skin hasn't had, aside from the freaking castor oil I put on the other night that caused all these breakouts, my skin's been pretty good. Free from cystic acne. I'm not on any medication. I'm not on any pills. I'm not on anything other than vitamins, right? I started adding some milk thistle to the mix, some vitamin Bs and iron and zinc and things like that to just support my neurochemistry. I would say if you aren't sure what vitamins and minerals and all the things to take, go see a kinesiologist, because they don't just prescribe what they think based off of even blood results. Sure, that's nice and all that. blood results are based off of normal, and the majority of the population is sick, and that is considered normal. So let's not go with that. Go with kinesiologists. If you don't even know what kinesiology is, it's wild. What it's all about. Kinesiology, right? The study of movement. And so you can learn things, beliefs stored in your body. For example, I'm Allie, my hand stays still. I believe I'm worthy of receiving. Oh, what? I totally believe I'm worthy of receiving. Turns out I didn't. Time check. Okay, we're doing all right. I didn't know, I wasn't privy to this, but I went to a kinesiologist multiple times to start understanding what beliefs are stored in my body. And what I came to find, right, this comment about me not feeling safe to be a woman, me rejecting my feminine essence, this has actually been validated by my own body, not by what I saw on some Instagram reel and what somebody else is sharing. Like, this is why I'm so passionate about doing this type of work, where you're muscle testing your own beliefs. So understanding my beliefs around love as a transaction, I need to earn your love. I need to scratch your back so that you scratch mine. So this began this whole journey of self-love. Taking a mirror. I have a mirror by my bed. Every morning and every night I get in that mirror and I tell myself how much I love myself. Because you know how many times you find your reflection and you go, ooh, we're looking a little tired. And all the things that we say to ourselves. My invitation for you is to train yourself. Every time you see a mirror, say something nice to yourself. You see a reflection, hey, hot stuff. Constantly. And this is work that I'm doing all the time. And I say this as medicine for you as much as it is for myself, still continuously. Like, you think I'm super comfortable posting all these reels and things like that. Like, there are so many times where I'm just like, oh God, Allie, why were you up so late? You want to get on video now? Like, no. And then I go, wait a sec. That share was actually really good, and that may really help somebody. So I'm just like getting over it. And what happens, it becomes this like mental thing where you just burn those neural pathways so much of like giving so many fucks, giving so many fucks, giving so many fucks. And then you're just like, I'm fucking tired of giving so many fucks. Fuck it. Whatever. Think I'm crazy. Think I've got it going on. Think I don't. Think I'm losing my marbles. I don't fucking care. I mean, sometimes I do, just a little bit, but I gotta go. I got life to live, and I gotta tend to my own needs. Put on my oxygen mask. So, muscle testing, understanding beliefs, understanding what beliefs I had stored in my body about not feeling safe as a woman. Then this began this journey of yoni steams. Anybody? You're like, what the fuck's a yoni steam? Yeah, I have my ex-partner was a carpenter, and probably the sweetest gift anyone's ever gifted me. He calls it the cunt steamer. A box, big old box he made out of Tasmanian oak with a hole in it so I can sit with a towel around me and steam my vagina. Steam my entire womb space with flowers such as lavender, chamomile, rose petals, and whatever else I'm feeling into, right? To steam the womb, to clear any residue and energy that may be stuck. Now, only in the last 5-6 months, I did an even further deep dive into my womb to be like, why am I still getting premenstrual anxiety? And what I found, well, it was some stored grief, because I watched something from Liz Gilbert where she said anxiety is not actually, well, who knows what it really is for anybody, but anxiety is actually unprocessed grief. And then I was like, oh shit, what sort of grief do I have unprocessed in my womb? And then, well, there was a lot of stuff. And not even sure I'm ready to share all of that stuff, but it will be coming out on the next album called Truth. What's the album called? Well, it hasn't been fully recorded. We're just making this shit up as we go, right? I'm channeling. So, I had to dive deep into my womb. I had to clear a lot of stuff. I had to cry a lot of tears and release that stored grief in my womb. Stuff that happened as a little girl. And that little girl that stayed quiet to keep the peace in the family from things that happened to me. And I went on this massive journey, and I'll admit there was a lot of ketamine involved to handle that, and some really witchy shit. Like, I was crying like exorcism tears when I started diving into the womb. And of course, I had these roses hung upside down from my album launch concert last June, and I started bringing them into these dance ceremonies where I would cry into the rose petals and create a little altar of like, I am releasing this grief in my womb, and this goes to the women in my bloodline. What I do, I take those roses for the next yoni steam, and I'd use the roses I cried into to steam my cunt, my beautiful yoni flower. Anyways, and then it was like a few months of going into this, and I knew I needed to share this with the women in my community, in my life, in my circle, women I knew, women I didn't know, and also invite the voice as a massive element to healing, because I realized so many women that I know are dealing with hormonal dysregulation and are just being prescribed pill after pill and doing all sorts of weird treatments and spending thousands of dollars, when I realized what we can do for ourselves, no one can do for us. Connecting intention, awareness, energy, visualization into the womb, vocal toning into the womb, using your voice to clear, cleanse, and purify stagnant energy, not needing to sound good, not needing to hit a right note, but for devotional practice of clearing stagnant energy in the womb. So I got a group of women to gather around a fire at Manly Dam to bring their old journals. I wrote a letter to my mother that I ended up never giving to her. I ended up burning that letter, and instead wrote a song about that letter. And having this ceremony with these women for me to share that song, for me to share that grief, for me to share all that stored emotion. Ever since that ceremony, ever since I wrote that song, wrote that letter, burned it, shared that music with those women, and created a space for them to dive into their sacral center and to reclaim their wild essence, to get silly, to get on the hands and floors, to like, blah, and to just like also have a fuckload of fun doing it. I haven't had that premenstrual anxiety ever since. And yes, I did start adding some Vitex Chastry. Chastry. It's herb, depends on what country you're in. It's taken me a long time to say that properly. An herb. I'm in Australia. It's a herb. It's a herb. Oh my god. Anyways, I digress. Sorry, I'm keeping track of time. No, I'm not sorry. I'm keeping track of time. Time is sacred, and I have a client. So I'm going to wrap this up shortly. But if we don't do this now, I don't know when I'll do it. So I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And I want to basically get this message out to, I don't know, one, build a relationship with you, whoever you are, so you know who you are looking at, receiving feeds from. When I get up there doing the thing, know that I didn't come out of the womb, la-da-da-da-da-da, banging a drum. Like, no, I have a very different past. And I think it's important to share that with you, because maybe something I've shared has inspired you. Maybe it's triggered you. Maybe it's helping you. At the end of the day, it's really none of my business. But what I want to share is a bit of myself, real, raw, and authentic, because authenticity is the highest frequency. And I know in doing this, I may have supported one person. I may have helped two. I may have helped none. But for me, my own medicine, if I don't get this out, it hurts, because you know what? Energy is neither created nor destroyed. And so the topic of sharing my hormonal journey has been allocating a lot of mental capacity, because I've been thinking about how much I would really benefit from getting it out there, from sharing my hormonal journey. And there'll be heaps more shares, I'm sure, but this is the first take at it. I don't even know if I'm going to do any edits to this. I think I'm just going to get it out there, because that's how we do, that's how we roll. So if this has helped you in any way, if you want to know more, if you'd like to work together, if you want to know about my 8-week vocal embodiment program, kicking off in February with the group, if you want to know about one-on-one mentorship, just hit me up. I actually read these comments. I'm managing all of this. I don't have an assistant. I think I'm still dealing with a lot of control freak elements. But I like being part of the process, and I like doing all the things. So yeah, give a like, subscribe, drop a comment, and yeah, stay tuned for more. I'm sending you so much love, and know that you are not alone. You are not alone, and I'm here to support you. So wishing you all a beautiful holiday, maybe. Who knows how long it'll take before I share another one of these. Can't guarantee it, but merry everything and lots of love.